Welcome to the English class on the Language Zone server in Discord. This is the second part of the class on prepositions, and today we're going to be talking about usage of prepositions. So in today's class, we're going to discuss the difference between for, since, and from, and usage of during, for, and while. Now, for and since are prepositions that can be used with present perfect or past perfect simple or continuous tense. Now, regardless of that general fact, there are specifications for their use. We use for with a period of time, for example, for 2 weeks, for 10 years, in a sentence. So when we're describing something. So here, hold on, give me a second. I think today we are going to use for a few hours. It's now generally just a period of time. It doesn't have to be years. It could be just weeks, days, minutes. But you can use since. You can say we've been here since a few hours. That doesn't even make sense, and plus it's grammatically incorrect. Now, he's been studying for a long time, and you can say he's been studying since a long time. Now, we use since when we're getting specific. Since is used when you're stating the starting point. So, before I move on to since, we can also use for with the past simple tense when an action or an event started, also finished in the past, is being described, but is finished after some time. So these are two examples. I have lived in London for 20 years. Currently, and you are not living in another city. You are still living in London, meaning you have not finished that action. But if you say, I lived in London for 20 years, I am not living in London at the moment, but I did start living in London 20 years ago, and I have finished that somewhere with those 20 years, the window of the 20 years. That's how long I lived in London. So if you notice, it's just one word. That's the difference between it. So that's the past simple tense. I lived in London for 20 years means you started it in the past and then it finished. So you also use for there. And then I have lived in London. You started living in London in the past, obviously, and you are still living in London. So for can be used with the past simple tense. Now with since is used with a starting point, and that is the moment that marks the beginning of a period of time, and it's usually more specific. If you can remember that since is used with a starting point, remember that since is used at a specific time. So he's been studying since 5 o'clock. You can use it there, but you can't say he's been studying for 5 o'clock. No, that doesn't make sense. You could also change this sentence he's been studying since the 5th of February. That's one. And he's been studying for a long time. So it's really just about being specific. If you can't remember the for a period of time, or if it's confusing, remember for is general. It's a general period of time, not specific, and since uses a specific point in time. So it could be 10 o'clock, an hour. It could literally just describe, like here, a state of being. It doesn't necessarily have to be time. But like since I was born, it's a time, but it's not being stated in years or anything. It's just stating the time of being of the action. Now, since versus from. We use since and from with the starting point. Now, here is where you'd probably get confused. Today, let's go with a yellow highlighter. Yeah. So, now, starting point is common for use with both since and from. And they're used to mark the beginning of something like an action, an event, or a state. When I say state, I mean like, well, a state of being. It's just like a process. Doesn't mean like an actual state, like of country. It's somebody's existence, kind of, or the existence of being. It's being. Now, we normally use since with present or tense to talk about the duration of an action, event, or a state. Since indicates the starting point of the said action, event, or state. So, I have known John since I was a child. It answers the question. If you get confused when writing a sentence like this, you could ask the question, how long have I known John? And then say the answer is I have known John since I was a child. So that's supposed to help you figure out if it's indicating a starting point or just a period of time. I was exhausted and I had been at work since 6 a.m. He finished school. How long has he been working for us? He's been working for us since he finished school. Why are you tired? I was exhausted. That was the first part. Why are you tired? How long have you been at work? I was exhausted. Sorry. Yeah, I had been at work since 6 a.m. So basically, the time. Now we use from in other situations. Like masks will be compulsory from tomorrow. Now, from is also used when you're indicating the starting point of something that has an end point, and you use another preposition to mark its end point. So you could say, I'm usually here. Like even these sentences, you could also use them in these examples. Masks, well, for now, masks are compulsory indefinitely. So I'm just gonna change the example with this one. I'm usually here from 6 o'clock till 8 o'clock. Yeah. So since is used to indicate the starting point of something, while from is used in any other case. It also can be used to indicate the starting point of something, but remember, it can be used with something to mark its endpoint. While since, if it's something that has an endpoint, let's say when someone asks, "How long are you going to be in Berlin?" I'm going to be in Berlin from the 24th of December till or from 24th December till the 4th of January. If someone asks you how long have you been in Berlin, that's when you say I've been in Berlin since the end of the month, or since December 24th. Yeah? So, capiche. He had improved a lot dash from the start of the season. Now the correct answer is since the start of the season. It can't be from the start of the season, but it can be for the start of the season, but it's since, because literally the start of the season, the start of the season, the start of. Remember, since is used to indicate the starting point, right? The starting point of an action. Yeah, that's what it's for. Anyway, back. Everything will be cheaper dash 9 o'clock tomorrow. It's definitely not for, and absolutely not since, but from. Now, this is an example of this case when from is used in any other case. It's kind of like it's the starting point of something, but it's not with the present or past perfect tense. Now, and again, you ask the question, when did he improve, or when did he show improvement? He had improved a lot from the start of the season. When will everything be cheaper? Or when will there be a discount? Or when will they hold a sale? Everything will be cheaper from 9 o'clock tomorrow. So you're telling the person when. Now, using during, for, and while. We use during with a noun to talk about when something happens. When something happens. With during, we answer the question when. Now, this shouldn't really interfere with what we discussed in the last part of the class, but I gave you the idea of using questions because it's way easier when you're choosing the preposition you want to use. So, let's go to the first example. When did people get lost? Some people got lost during the journey. I will finish the novel during the summer break. So you could ask, when are you going to finish your novel? Or let's say a friend lended you your book and they're like, oh, when are you gonna finish? And they're like, oh, I will finish the novel during the summer break. And when do most burglaries happen? Most burglaries happen during the night. Capiche? Simple. You just look at the sentence and think or ask yourself, does this answer the question? And then you ask yourself, not someone else. But you can ask someone else if you need help. Maybe. For is used with a length of time to say how long something happens, and obviously it answers the question, how long? How long have you two known each other? We have known each other for a long time. How long did you wait? How long did you wait at the bus stop? I waited for more than an hour, but I finally left. So, I'll just go through the last one. He worked in this company for over 20 years. How long did he work here? So you just, really, it's simple. Just ask the question. So from while, we use while with a subject and a verb or a phrase, no, sorry, a clause, because a subject and a verb together called a clause. So I'm going to get my pen, just to write this, that's just asterisks, pardon that. So this, really pardon my asterisks. So subject plus verb is gonna give you a clause, right? Great. Ooh, that's cursive. I don't know if that's clear, so I'm just gonna write it again. Clause. Sorry for the space. Now, when you're to use while, when you're talking about two things that are happening simultaneously, that's really important. Happening at the same time. That's a key word to this. Now, what were you doing? Now, if you notice, there isn't really a question tag with this, but you could be like, what were you doing while I was in the shower? I had breakfast while you were in the shower. I always listen to the radio while I'm cleaning. Let's say your new roommate asks you, what do you do while you're cleaning? So you could answer and say, I always listen to the radio while I'm cleaning. I mean, this one is pretty obvious. What shouldn't you do? What don't you do when you're driving? I don't use my phone while I'm driving. So this is pretty straightforward. I think there's a question I was asked once. Why can't I say, I had a dream while sleeping? Now, I know I fell asleep while I was watching the movie. Now, you were watching the movie and then you fell asleep. So it kind of works because you were supposed to be watching a movie, but then you kind of slept off. But that's not the same thing, because you can't watch a movie and sleep at the same time. This rule is not the same. Yeah, but you can say, I fell asleep while the movie was playing. That works in this situation. Now, during versus for. The difference between these two is that during refers to when something happens, and for refers to how long something happens. So here's the sentence. Every day I run for 1 hour. How long do you run? And the second one, I usually run during the weekend. When do you run? I run during the weekend. Yeah. Now, during versus while. Yeah, this is it. The main difference between during and while is that we use while with a clause, and we use during with a noun, and also the explanation I gave earlier, with the simultaneous actions and the not simultaneous actions. So I fell asleep during the film. That's like what I was trying to explain that time. And I fell asleep while I was watching the film. Two different things. So while is used, I mean, it does feel really, it feels like you can interchange them, but I mean, people make that mistake. I do that too sometimes. But you have to remember, while is used with a clause that is a subject and a verb, and during is used with just a noun. So here I have, ignore this numbering. Probably shouldn't be. It's definitely not supposed to be like that. So I cut my finger during, while, or for I was cooking. Definitely not for. No. But while I was cooking. But not during I was cooking. Because you have a noun and you have a verb. So you've got a clause. No. So yeah, I'm just get highlighted. This is our answer. He was texting his friends while breakfast, during breakfast, or for breakfast. Not for breakfast and not while breakfast, but during breakfast, because you just got noun. You have only a noun, yeah? And here you have clause. She lived in a homeless shelter while 2 years, during 2 years, for 2 years. Now, you might actually just make the mistake of saying during 2 years. That's actually not it. If you remember what we said, for is asking the question how long. So, how long did she live in a homeless shelter? She lived in a homeless shelter for 2 years. So, there you go. That's your answer. Now, that's all. Any questions, you please feel free to ask me. Thank you for listening, and bye.